to Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. And you'll see us right here and see the beautiful smiling face of Dr. Debbie Green as we talk to you today about that guilty feeling when you have left a relationship that probably needed to end, but maybe you feel guilty about it and maybe you go right back. Dr. Debbie?
Grand Rising, Grand Rising. We are on Facebook and actually YouTube this morning.
Fantastic.
Yoo-hoo. All right, all right. Again, such a very interesting topic we have today, and it's actually something that is going on at this very moment. One thing about life has all of these different choices and decisions, and before we realize it, I mean, per day we make 30 to 50,000 choices per day. And I often ask people, how many of those choices did you make for yourself?
Mm,
Just yourself. In your 24-hour day of making 30 to 50,000 choices. Some of those choices are involuntary and some of those choices are voluntary.
yeah,
But guess what? Every day, yes, you make just that many.
yeah.
The amazing thing about life is, whatever you put yourself into, you have to live. I'm saying? You live it virtually by what it goes on in your mind. You also live it externally. That means whatever's inside of you, you're going to literally cast out
Mm,
what's what's it inside, you're going to cast it out on the outside of you automatically. That's what we talk about: energy, auras, all of these things that people pick up from day to day. So this topic right here, I want to really hone in and break this topic down: how to emotionally detach from a toxic relationship. Now, most times, understand, we don't know that relationship is toxic until something happens. It could
mm,
have been toxic from the meet and greet. It could have been toxic from the honeymoon stage. It could have been toxic from the short term to the long term. But
mm.
why why don't why don't we notice? And even if we do notice, why aren't we proactive? You know, why does it take the worst of the worst before we do something? What is it about the human nature that allows us to just stay in a dysfunctional, defective state, externally and internally? You know, and I mean, no one's perfect. There's no perfect anything, but the choice to either to be in bondage, the choice to be miserable, the choice to even give misery, is up to that one person. So again, some people feel, oh, I'll never have, hear that word called never, I'll
Mm.
never have a healthy relationship. So let me stay in this one here because I never had one. And it's a possibility you might have went through a lot of brokenness. Let me tell you something. If you went through ongoing failed relationships, it is not what's on the outside of you. It's what's on the inside of you. So, which means that you are literally you're attracting what's inside. It's, we can blame, we can shift blame, we can point fingers all day long. We say, well, it wasn't my fault because they verbally assaulted me. It wasn't my fault because they physically hurt me. No, I'm not saying it was your fault. I'm saying that were you proactive with your life choices? Were you compromising in areas that was unhealthy because of what you felt? This is all I have. Oh, let me stay with this. Oh, I care for him
Yeah,
or her.
I see a
Oh,
lot
they
of.
were good lovers. I'm just throwing it out there. You know.
I've seen two patterns with people staying in bad relationships. One, the person had money, or two, the sex was great. So I've seen people stay in relationships for one of those two reasons, even though other things might have been horrific. Person might have been verbally abusive, maybe even physically abusive. The person may have shown them such disrespect and disregard, but they will stay and justify taking bad treatment for either of those two reasons. I had an associate who stayed in a very abusive relationship. She would leave and come back and leave and come back and leave and come back. And her reasoning was, I saw my parents get divorced and I saw how my mother struggled. And I don't want to go through life without a man. And, well, he does provide for me, he buys me things, but he hits you and he verbally abuses you and he's kicked you out of the house in front of your children. And I mean, he's humiliated you, but you keep going back. And I think when people don't have an image of what a healthy relationship looks like, they will hold on to an unhealthy one, believing that an unhealthy one is better than none at all. And they don't really have a vision of what a good relationship should feel like. So they take
Correct.
the bad feelings and they justify it by whatever good they're getting out of it. They take it. And I had another associate. She was working herself, working two jobs, working to take care of the children, had a husband that wouldn't lift a finger, uh, hung out with his friends, even had other women, but their intimate life was great. And so she stayed with him for that, even though he basically, I mean, he was an absent father because he was not emotionally supportive of the children. He hung out like he was still a single man. And she stayed in that relationship and did all the work, worked outside the home, came in, did all the housework. And she complained and complained and complained, but still stayed, left him once, came back. Same thing, people choose to suffer through a bad relationship rather than let it go. And another one, she grew up without her father as well. Same thing. No image of what a good man looks like. All she knows is her father was not in her life. And she didn't want to live a life where a man was not in her life.
One will compromise in pain. Pain becomes very familiar. It's like every day, like brushing your teeth and, you know, eating. I once had a client tell me if I wasn't in pain, I didn't feel alive.
Mm,
So, the perceptions of discomfort is different from every person's point of view, you know? And the thing about this is, we're specifically talking about painful relationships. This is not something that is, like a pain where you could take a Tylenol, what I'm saying, and say, okay, let me get rid of it. No, you have literally adapted your being to this situation.
mm,
That's the reason why you get the yo-yo effect. I want to leave, but I want to stay. You are adapted and enmeshed in your heart because that's where it is. The mind and the heart is trying to make a decision on doing one or two things, but you have this fear door that is locked between those two things. So, in a dysfunctional, defective relationship, there is a lot of fear, and fear,
Here.
literally, we get comfortable with even that.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the positive and the negative thoughts that we have per day, we have 80% negative and 20% positive.
Mm,
That's how many thoughts that flow into our mind. And if we, and you have to choose and filter which one of those you're going to live by. You know what I'm saying? Because in a relationship, if the majority of it is negative, it is negative. If
mm,
you got maybe 20 or 15 or 10% positive and you're trying to hold on to that 10 or 20% to keep you going, no. All the bells and whistles are letting you know, leave,
mm,
exit. Majority of people, that's the reason why we have this epidemic of domestic violence, the highest it's ever been since 2020. Is extremely um, it's an issue. Murdercide is the issue.
So people are choosing to stay in bad relationships out of fear of what it will be like if they are alone.
That's just one factor, Naima. They stay in it because of children. They stay in it because of financial obligation. They stay in it because they. I've heard so many excuses. If I leave, I'm going to get hurt. So I'm going. They stay out of fear. Is in so many different factors into that,
Mm.
and they compromise with it because they think that, oh, I have time. This is the problem. I have time. I'm dealing with this. Everybody else, loved ones, friends, everyone can see that this is the functional relationship. But then in this person's mind, oh no, they're not always like that. I think I'm supposed to be here to save them because if I wasn't here, that person will make up every excuse, explanation in the world without saying you are absolutely correct and I need to leave. Now you have some of them that say, yes, I need to leave, but I don't know how. I don't I don't have anywhere to go.
How does that happen? Where people throughout their life have not made friends, have disconnected relationships from family, have not talked to people that they can trust. How does it happen that people are in a situation that they need to leave, but they don't have anywhere to go? How does that happen? Are they isolated over time? Because a lot of times abusive relationships start out when first the person isolates you from your family. They set up some kind of conflict, so you stop talking to your family. They set up a conflict, you stop talking to your friends. So now it's just you and them. And because you've cut off relations, now when things get bad, you don't have anywhere to go. So how is it that people have nowhere to go? Does that happen over time?
Yes, and sometimes it happens immediately, depending on what type of relationship it is. Because if addiction is in that relationship, a lot of them have burnt their bridges.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? So again, the factors play really heavy in dysfunctional relationships because majority of people you have people who have addictions, or substance alcoholism or crack cocaine or whatever they're addicted to, and they stay in that relationship with that addicted person. They know that person has addiction, and they may or may not have one, or and they're like, okay, I care for this person, so I'm gonna try to wait it out.
Mm.
And other family members or friends see that this is a dysfunctional relationship, so they're like, well, when are you going to leave?
Yeah, they're
You see
not
what I'm
going
saying?
to change. What are you waiting for? Just
Right. When you gonna leave? So when they don't leave, Naima, when they don't leave, then the family themselves get to a point where you know what, you just going to stay in that relationship. I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave y'all alone because I don't want to be bothered with that. And don't call me when something goes wrong.
because I told
So
you
that's
you left alone.
right. So that means the door is going to get closed at
Mm.
that point. And then when something does go wrong, they try to reach out to that family member, friend, or whatever, and don't get any feedback. There
Those.
you go. So that door is closed. So a lot of times that's what happens. Or again, if they have an addiction themselves, if they may have done something to them prior to even being in a dysfunctional relationship with another person. And like I said, so many different factors. Um, relationships that are defective and dysfunctional. But I wanted to focus on several areas. The obsessive, the guilt and shame and remorse, while being emotionally attached. The When you asked me a question just a few minutes ago, why do people leave and then go back? Because they're dealing with guilt, shame, and remorse.
Mm.
So they come back to that relationship, and they hear that person, oh, now I'll never do it again, everything is all right, I love you, blah blah blah. They get manipulated back into that relationship for the
Mm.
umpteenth time. But this time, this person goes from just screaming at you to putting their hands on you.
Mm.
Now you're really in a pickle. You're trying to get out of it. You're literally trying to get out of the relationship, and that person won't let you.
Ooh, you can't leave.
Right. You because they're supposed to, you leave me, I'm going to hurt you, kill you, whatever the case may be. And then you like, oh no, you just talking, you're not, you ain't gonna hurt me. You go back and forth, but then you find yourself on a tabloid in the newspaper.
Mm.
Murder side. I want to really put it out there. Murder and suicide is in a dysfunctional relationship. You got several things that's going on, okay? You have mental illness, criminality, homicide, and suicide all in one package. Now, this is it. How can one not see that?
They don't know.
They gotta they
They
gotta
don't
notice
know.
something.
They don't know how to see it because either they don't have a contrasting image of what a healthy, functional relationship looks like, or maybe
One,
that's
that's
what
one factor.
or maybe that has been their experience. If they grew up in a household where there was constant violence, threats, beatings, then for them that is normal behavior for a couple. And so when it happens to them, they figure that's what happens in everybody's relationships. This is what it is. You get through the period of violence, the arguments, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, and you forgive and go on, or you just walk on eggshells until the next episode. But this is how it is. I've had associates that believe, once you take those vows in the church to stay married,
Mm.
that you stay there no matter how bad it is, and that it's spiritually wrong to leave your spouse, and so they stay, even in assault, rape, beatings, uh, threats. They stay because they believe, well, this is what God wants me to do. I vowed to stay in this marriage, and so okay, that person, even though they're even unfaithful, they have relationships, but I must stay because I am obeying God. That's what they believe, and so
Yep.
they stay.
Well, that's just one. That's another factor. There's many factors that actually are, um, again, emotional attachment. Okay, when you are emotionally attached to a dysfunctional relationship, you feel responsible for that relationship. You
Mm.
feel a obligation for that relationship. You feel like you maybe even be doing something wrong while you're being mistreated in that relationship. And it goes on and on and on. And it's like before you realize you have all that this time that you have put into this relationship and it's not getting any better. It went from just somebody ridiculing you, reprimanding you, putting you down, not taking you seriously, to obsession. Okay, now I'm obsessed with you. I'm obsessed with you. I don't want you to wear certain clothing. I don't want you to talk to certain people. Okay, these are the signs, people. These are early warning signs. Early, Dr. Deb is giving you early warning signs. When someone is trying to change you, and if you especially have a low self-esteem, no identity whatsoever, to know who you are before getting into a relationship, you are then pliable.
Mm.
I'm talking about pliable like clay in their hands.
And you don't see it. See it.
That's the reason why you don't see it, because you don't have consciously awareness of who
Mm,
you are, not who you are to another person, who you are to yourself. Okay, so people get into these relationships, men and women. I'm not just talking about a woman being abused. I'm talking about men, because men could be abused too. They
mm,
get in these relationships because they don't have an identity. They lost that identity. No one told them who they were years ago, even when they were young children, as well as helping them to identify the self, right? Okay, fast forward. You get in relationships before you realize you're doing exactly what a person tell you to do. I need you to do this. I need you to do that without even thinking. You just automatically react. That's why you got to have a proactive mind. Proactive mind says, okay, what should I do for myself before I even do for another human being? No, it's not called selfish. It's selfness. The
mm.
ability to give yourself permission to live independently on this earth, because you can't walk in their shoes. Their heart don't beat for you. You can't look through their eyes. So that means you are an independent vessel walking the earth. What happens when you try to live through somebody else and live for what they want? If you run into a deceptive person, an emotional manipulator, or narcissist, you are putty in their hands.
Wow.
It will put you in bondage. I'm
Mm.
so serious.
Oh yeah. Well, I've got an associate that I would say is probably in that situation. We got a caller, but I know we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll go to 706-202. And you're listening to and watching the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. And this is Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. So if you want to
YouTube, call in.
hold in, 515-605-9325. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, you can write in your comments. We'll share them with our listening and viewing audience. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata.
Hi, this is John Alexander.
And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world. Watch us every day on The Media Connection at www.youtube.com/The Media Connection TV.
YouTube it. We'll see you soon.
There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their stories to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection. Mondays at 5 p.m. and Tuesdays at 12 noon on cable TV channel 19 in Chicago. And other cities, check your local cable listings. Do you want to live in a world without war? Join our global peace movement. Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Light transcends culture, religion, ideology, and other boundaries to achieve peaceful harmony in the global society. HWPL is committed to bringing world peace and cessation of war through peaceful dialogue between religious groups. I am Director Shin-Suk Kim of the HWPL Chicago branch of North America. Join us for our next gathering. Call 773-580-1501 and be a part of the movement for world peace. Email us at chicagohwpl@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green with my wonderful co-host Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. And we are talking about a very important topic right now that is affecting lives pretty much all over the nation. So it's not that, we had a pandemic, but we got an epidemic, y'all. We
Mm,
got an epidemic. Oh, yes. Every time you turn on your television, read your newspaper, look at social media, however you get your news, you will see it. Someone has killed someone, and far as a woman and children. And then if you don't just see just the homicide, you'll see murdercide.
mm.
Murdercide is just what it is. Okay. That means they killed the children, the wife, and then took their life, and vice versa. And you see sometimes the mothers will kill the children, or the fathers will kill the children. The children are always the
Yeah.
target out of all of this mess that adults are going through. And Dr. Dev is real passionate about this, y'all. I'm gonna tell you right now. So if you hear me saying I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, that's the way I feel about it. I was
Mhm.
telling my wonderful co-host this a couple of months ago. I said that's it.
Yeah.
We have to ring this bell. If
Yeah.
I'm the only person that's doing it, that's fine with me. I don't care. I'm not depending on the state, the city, the government, because no one is doing anything. The church, nobody's doing nothing. All
It-
we do is see the children suffer, and it's not fair to children to
right.
get
And then,
caught up into adult things.
yeah. And children really, I mean, people don't know what to do, which is probably why they do nothing and they just say, "Oh, what a shame." But I can see where the foundation of this kind of thing happens. Like you were saying, it's how you feel about yourself. Got an associate who married, probably according to his mind, out of his league. This woman, beautiful and, all that intelligent and so forth, successful. And, he's, I guess, rather plain looking. Many don't see him as attractive. But early on, he was very, very jealous, very possessive, very controlling. She stayed with him because, what did he have? He had money, he had a position, but physically, and I don't think he felt good about himself. And he was always bragging about how much money he made, how much money he made. It's almost as if, I can buy this woman because even though I look this way, and he talked about how other women had rejected him when he was younger and before he got successful and all that. But the feeling that I get is that this is someone who doesn't really feel worthy of the woman that he has and is always afraid somebody's going to take her from him. And I think one time they got into an argument and she threatened to leave. And he did say, no, you ain't getting out of this relationship alive. He said it in a moment of anger, but he said it. And she stayed and stays and obeys, even though there's like, threats to leave, but they stay in their dysfunction. And, you know, for him, it's like, she's mine. And I could see signs of, if I can't have her, no one will. So,
Again, she adapted to that.
yeah, yeah. And a excused it because of the money factor, but still, if someone makes you feel like you can't leave and live, that's kind of horrifying. But if you choose that, that is a choice. My thought was, why is how did she end up in that situation? I see where maybe his low self-esteem happened over time, ridiculed as a child. He talked about how he used to be heavy, very fat, and he was called bad names and everything. So he's
Doesn't
since
it?
lost the weight, but I think in his mind he still sees himself as very unattractive, but feels like the money compensates for that. So I can see maybe where his low self-esteem comes from. I'm wondering, where does hers come from?
It comes from somewhere in her life.
Somewhere.
Again, people compromise. They compromise on getting what they want and thinking that that this is okay to compromise in a dysfunctional relationship. Can we take that caller, please?
Yeah. So area code 706-202. Your mic is open. Grand Rising. Thank you for joining us on Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green.
Grand Rising, Dr. Debbie Green, and assalamu alaikum to you, Sister Naima Latif. This is Kwame Sunhorse, and I'm speaking from stolen land of the Muskogee Creek in Edenton, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Wow.
And it's really, I commend you, Dr. Green, in being able to use your tools and your skills to what we need is how do we fix what's broken? Because there's a lot of broken people out here. And
Yes.
the part of mental health is something that we have just recently, since maybe the 70s, it really became out there because we didn't identify with mental illness. We were in it. We lived it. We were raised in it. Because if Bobby E. Wright, right there in Chicago, the psychopathic racial personality, he coined the phrase menticide. You have
Right.
S. Wilson, who wrote Crest Theory's Color Confrontation, and her being able to identify those things with using some of Neely Fuller's writings. But even Carl Bell, and he identified the alcohol fetal syndrome. All of these are people that stepped in and said, there's more to this thing called ghetto minds. It's how these minds are being programmed. Because you go back another 2 generations, we were just coming out of captivity. And so that was one of the worst of the genocide, psychic trauma, what you wrote, Naima. These are ways in which we have been programmed and into this mental illness. So now we're aware of it. We see the symptoms. We've got the people, A.B. Side, the black psychologists that have come in it. I forget the sister that started the BB. She started the African American Psychology Month. We've now become aware that there is a problem because we're kind of, like you said, you're seeing it in suicide murder cases that are coming. Once upon a time, when we looked at certain situations on the news, we knew it wasn't going to be us because we didn't have those tendencies to do these type of things. But what has happened as we have hit what we call we've gained more, but we've lost less because the 4 things that have been lost is values, morals, respect, and ethics.
Absolutely.
These tools used to be one of the things that was great about our people. Now they're less. So anyway, but I'll listen to what you have to respond to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. There's so many dynamics of dysfunctional history that we experience. And of course, our descendants from those issues, from those people, it's energy. Energy transforms. It transforms. And we always look for what happened, how this happened. Everything has a cause and effect. Everything. You see, I mean, you if you look deep enough underneath the issues of life, you will see it. You will see it. And out of the heart, the issues of life flow. So most of these things are dealing with our emotional attachment to a trauma, like you said, our emotional attachment to our our generational, you know, enmeshment. A lot of things happen even, and it affects us. It affects us in so many different ways. We then latch on to so many different characteristics. Epigenetics is real. It's real. And we transform and transition. However, the thing about this is, what is the difference between a person that has experienced that trauma and does something about it within themselves, and say, self, you're not going to continue to live this trauma to destroy your relationship, to destroy your mind. You're going to battle this fear. You're going to face this fear. You're going to conquer it, and you're going to move on and move forward, versus another individual that keeps that cycle going.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying?
I
So
think
it's the mindset and
Mhm.
the influencers of what that person is around. And the major thing is choice. They have to choose. They have to choose. Let me express something to you really quick. And this is still dealing with emotional attachment to relationships. And we're not just talking about heterosexual relationships. We're also talking about family relationships that have been dysfunctional as well. I have a client that at birth she was left in the hospital by her mother and did not want to go and pick her up. Right? Father was absent. And when mother did come back to pick up, she said she didn't love her. She said she
Mhm.
grew up with a mom that did not love her
Didn't
at
even.
all.
That's pain.
And she said
That,
she knew she wasn't being loved, even as a young child. She
wow.
understood. She said when she did get to herself, it was like, well, can I leave? She said when she became a younger teenager, she tried to run away. She
Mm.
she was experiencing depression and anxiety as early as 8 years old. Didn't know what it was. She was going through so many different changes. Now, since that time, growing up, she's been in dysfunctional relationships because of the brokenness, like you said, the
So,
brokenness the brokenness, because she was impacted by life circumstances, not even her own. She was impacted by that. So now, being in her late 50s, she's
wow,
still battling depression,
wow.
still battling anxiety, still battling it. So, we're going through I call it go through the stories of life to find out exactly when it started. Okay, I found it. So now what I have to do is build her up immensely inside so that she can say, I am not my past, but I am my future. And I'm doing something now about it. Because again, the whole body keeps score of the trauma. Your
Mm.
mind, your physical body, your every neuron, every cell in your body remembers the pain automatically, and it keeps reminding you of it. You
Mm.
get triggered through your senses, by sight, by hearing, by touch, by taste, and it reminds you. The subconscious mind brings it to the conscious mind. Here it is. This is what you've been experiencing. And it's like you can't get away from yourself. So what happens in a relationship when you see another failed relationship, and it's not your fault? It's not your fault, but at the same token, one has to learn how to live again proactively. Proactive. That means I got to prepare. I got to prepare for the worst. I got to prepare for the best. For me, just for me. I can't prepare for the next person. I got to prepare for myself. So when I do that, that means they're going to keep me on what they call mental alertness. Mental alertness is mental self-awareness. So I will notice when I'm putting myself, or if something is coming to me that's disturbing my peace. I can't blame it on what I see or what I hear. I can only know how to respond to this thing. No, I don't want that. And I mean it. So I draw the line in the sand and I'm exiting. I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't desire it. And I'm not going to be a part of it. But if you compromise, that's your biggest mistake.
So what happens to a person whose very foundation was the absence of love? Say with this young lady here, and I've known others that grew up knowing that the parents who raised them did not want them. You know, one parent was absent. In one case, a friend who was raised by a mother who had, some mild level of mental illness, but it wasn't enough to be institutionalized, just enough for her to be abusive. And the father was absent. That it was one of those relationships. It wasn't a relationship. Mother got pregnant. The father didn't want the mother to have the child. The mother didn't have a way to get out of having a child. So it's like, I didn't want you, but I couldn't abort you. It was kind of like being raised with that knowledge and being in an unloving environment and having extended family, the mother's siblings that didn't help or encourage. So there's the isolation of being raised in a family where you're constantly reminded that you're not wanted. So there's never an experience of having been loved. So you don't know what love is because you didn't get it at the very root of your upbringing.
Right.
And of course, now, as an adult woman, this is someone who struggles with bad relationships, over and over. Just no memory of what it feels like to be loved. So if no one that raised you loved you, and you have never learned to love yourself, told by your mother, you're ugly, you're stupid, I didn't want you. The only reason why you're here is because I couldn't abort you. Your father didn't want you. Where do you find the love in yourself if it's never been given to you? How do you develop something you don't even know what it feels like to be loved and valued by others?
The number one survival of life, the number one, you cannot be a victim. When you are a victim and you are continually living a victimized life, it's going to change your mental capabilities to deal with life. Because every time you're going to be a victim to everything, not just in failed relationships. You're going to be a victim if somebody stares at you too hard. You're going to be a victim if you went into a store and the cash register cheated you. You're going to be, you will be a victim to everything, because the mentality of a person that is a victim often thinks this: why is everything happening to me? Why can I ever be happy? Why are they doing this to me? And then they start doing it to themselves. Then they become self-victimized. And then that self-victimization goes into self-defeat, self-sabotage, leading to self-destruction. But if you remove the victim mentality completely, which means that I have to stand up for this being, not just for myself, but this being. My mind, my heart, my body, my soul belongs to me. I cannot allow myself to think constantly that I'm not strong enough to deal with life. I cannot put myself in that position, because if I do, then I am going to be manipulated. I'm going to be deceived. And I'm going to constantly feel pain from every direction. So, I'm so sorry that's not an option for people out there. If you feel like you're a victim, you have to ask yourself, how long? Because if you've been victimized for years and you say, well, somebody victimized me, I don't feel like I'm being victim. Okay, so it happened. It happened. But the question is, what are you going to do for your life? Not based upon what someone else is doing. Because if you're still under fear, you are victim mindset driven.
So where does the person reach to feel a sense of worthiness when it was not given to them by their parents or their home environment, and they grew up feeling unworthy, unloved? I mean, of course you make friends, you got positive teachers and people in your life, but if at your foundation you don't have that sense of well-being or appreciation, then even when good things happen, you don't feel good. This particular woman who grew up knowing she was unwanted, her most painful memory, I think she won some kind of school award for academic achievement, and it was at assembly, and everybody else, parents showed up. No one, her mother was not there. She had no father around, no relative, no one acknowledged her. So she recalls that moment of no one loves me, even though the teacher was very praising. Oh, you did wonderful. But her family was not, there was no one there. And she remembers that with a lot of pain and doesn't have a way to reframe that, such as, oh, I did this wonderful thing. And, my classmates saw it, my teacher saw it. Her memory of my mother didn't even love me enough to see when I won this award. She didn't even come, and she wasn't doing anything. She could have come, it wasn't during, it was in the evening, assembly. It was after work. She could have come. She chose not to.
Okay.
Uh, she didn't care. I mean, it was just her memory of it is pain. So when you have a life like that, and you don't know what love feels like, you don't know what appreciation feels like, and you get in a relationship with people, and I've seen her relationships with men that just kind of treat her bad, and she stays for a while until they leave her. She doesn't leave them.
Well, these are cyclings. These are cyclings. Okay, I want to mention one of our Facebook viewers, Lenora Bailey, said, we spend our whole life searching for love. It's hard when you grow up and there's no love in the home. When you find love, sometimes you mess it with, because you have to know love in order to give love.
Maybe you mess it up because you don't know. Yeah, and
Well,
that's what I would think. If you've never been loved, you don't know how to share a loving relationship, because part of the time you're always waiting for the person to leave you or mistreat you, because that's what you have been accustomed to.
right, right. And she also said, um, she also wrote, that's hurtful coming up, and no one appreciates what you are accomplishing in life. One thing about validation, I want, because this is what both of you are talking about. You're talking about value validation. Now, when a child grows up, if it's not being validated, if it's not saying, well, you did a good job, even though it might have not been perfect. Oh, that was so good. That was good that you made that C. That was good that you made that A. That was good that you cleaned up your room. Oh, you did such a good job. Okay. No one noticed. No one said. And if they did say something, they didn't say anything good.
Mm.
Okay. All right. So fast forward in your life, you look for validation, because
Yes.
you did not receive validation when you were a child.
Yes.
So now you look for it. You look for it on your job. You look for it in your friends. You look for it, and even in family members that was there. You know, and guess what? Can I tell you the truth? You may or may not get it.
They
Okay.
come.
So which means that if you are living your life because you're waiting for someone to tell you that you're doing well, you'll be waiting.
Mm.
You will be waiting. Just as you was waiting for it as a child, you will continue to wait for it as an adult. Now, again, no more victim mentality. A
Mm.
victim always feels it lacks something. It doesn't matter what it is. I lack to be accepted. I lack love. I lack to be honored. I want to be noticed. And it's not that you want the attention, you lack it because it's not there. There's a void that has not been fulfilled. And you know why it has not been fulfilled? Because you haven't fulfilled it.
Mm. It's got to come from you.
It's not going to come from the outside of you. God created us in a perspective to give us what we need. But the question is, we don't want to go deep into the reservoir.
Mm. Got
We
to.
want we want to reach out for things. Just like when we were children. When we were children, we were always reaching for mommy. Then we started crawling, we were reaching for toys. Then when we started walking, we were reaching, always reaching.
Mm.
But when you stop reaching and you allow yourself to be that fulfiller, you be your own seat filler.
You
You be your own shot caller.
filler.
You sit on your king throne or your queen throne and you say to yourself, guess what? This is enough.
Mm.
This is enough. I am enough for me. This is when the whole universe gonna hear you.
Mm.
You will send out an energy that is so horrific, so huge, so magnetized to the point where all of this negative energy that was coming to you in your life as you were growing up will cease in that very minute. And you say, wait a minute, Dr. Deb, how could you say that? I done seen it too many times
You can
in
change
other
your own
people.
reality.
It's because the energy that's inside of you has been compacted and over years and years and years of suppression, years and years and years of hopelessness. Because a person that's hopeless is a learned helplessness.
Mm.
Because
Wow.
I wanted to hope that my mother came to see me. I wanted to hope that my father acknowledged me. I wanted to, okay, so you didn't get it. So now you learn, well, maybe I don't deserve it.
That
Maybe they
deserve-
don't love me.
I'm not
I'm
worthy.
not good enough. Oh, there you go. Feeling that victim mentality
Yeah.
again. So what happens when you get into a relationship that's dysfunctional? Someone is going to notice that you are a victim.
And they will
And
validate
they're
your
going,
sense of unworthiness.
oh, they're going to tell you how beautiful you are. They're going to put you on a pedestal, but not for what you think. It's not all the time. Now, sometimes we find some really good people, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
We find some beautiful mates that love us because they know we didn't, God has sent us some of the most perfected human beings. But on the other hand,
And we can drive
sometimes,
them away because we're waiting for them to hurt us. And,
well, if we self
and
sabotage, yes,
we got to take a break, and we got a couple of callers. But when we come back, we'll talk about that. Are
yes.
you driving away your mate that could be the best thing for you?
Don't do it.
You're waiting for them to hurt you.
Ooh.
And so you treat them as if they already have. We'll be right back after this quick break. We want you to stick and stay. Don't stray away. And if you want to give us a call, 515-605-9325, press 1 when you're ready to speak. And we'll come right to you and get your thoughts. And if you want to join us live on Facebook or YouTube, look for Soulful Solutions and look for the smiling face of Dr. Debbie Green and Naima Latif.
The beautiful Naima.
Oh man, God sent the monthly sun bill today. This sunlight is really expensive, especially during this season. I'll probably have to work overtime to pay it.
Well, you better pay it on time. We don't want the sun to go out and we're sitting up here all day in the dark. Wouldn't it be terrible if God charged us for sunlight? Well, thank God, the light and heat from the sun is free. So why are we paying such high bills for the energy we use in our homes? Because we don't know how to use solar energy, the free energy from the sun. You can convert your regular home to a solar energy home and save tremendously on your electric bill. Take a look at your electric bill. Wouldn't you like to reduce or possibly even eliminate that cost altogether? Let one of our solar consultants show you how. Call today, 312-849-3456, and schedule a free consultation. That's 312-849-3456.
Crime in Chicago continues to increase. Community and politicians must come together to make a change. No one person can solve these problems by themselves, but I believe together we can make progress. Let's provide job training, economic growth, and invest into our 77 communities. Let's rebuild and restore Chicago. Vote for me for mayor of Chicago. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson, and I approve this message. Paid for by Willie Wilson for mayor.
Everything you need, what your body needs, is found in nature. So Susan Essentials doesn't do it any other way. Susan Essentials provides your employees and individuals access to over 20,000 nutritional products, and they are shipped direct to your door. Because Susan Essentials is certified in plant-based healing, we're permitted to offer you the best nutritional supplements on the planet. They're non-GMO and sustainably produced, and we take the guesswork out for you. Let Susan Essentials help you take control of your health.
All right, all right. Welcome back. Welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green with my wonderful co-host, Naima Latif, executive producer of The Female Solution. I just want to say this really quick before we take another call. I want anyone that's listening to me that please, if you are in a domestic violence relationship, verbally, mentally, physically, any type of way that you feel forced, listen to this intensely. If you got to go back and re-record this or listen to it on Facebook, I need you to get involved. I need you to do something. And there's no such thing that I don't know how, I can't. Listen, you got to do something. Take it seriously. Take your life seriously, because people are dying, y'all. They are dying. Children are being hurt. I mean, it's not just, like I say, heterosexual of a man and a woman. It's also family members hurting and killing each other. This has to cease. And it's in all communities, black communities, white communities, don't matter. It's just, it has to cease, because again, the children don't have an advocate, and they're in crossfire, they get caught up in it. They can't tell you, mommy, daddy, put the gun down. They can scream it to you, but the question is, will you listen?
Right.
When your children saying, you're in this emotional relationship, and and they don't know what to tell you. They don't know, especially if they're underage, if they're teenagers. They'll try to, man, we need to leave. We don't need to stay here. They'll try some kind of way to get away. But again, you're so emotionally attached, you can't hear. When you are emotionally attached, you cannot hear anyone. You have to get back to your logic mind. Let it make sense to you so you can see the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Okay, let's take that call, please.
All right, let's take that call. Area code. I'm going to take you all in this order: 773-960-312-671-312-768. And anybody else on our switchboard that has something to say and hasn't spoken yet, press 1 and we'll come to you next also. All righty. 773-960 Grand Rising. Thank you for joining us, and give us your name, where you're calling from, and your comments.
This is Prince Kofi James. Good conversation today.
Thank you for joining us.
I was just going to chime in with how the trauma, we especially Black folks, we experience trauma all the time. I mean, the world does it. You look at news. You ever see a good movie, get in bed, and the movie goes off, and they go, and then the news will come on and go, 2 people just got shot in a liquor store tonight after a good movie. That's
Yep.
trauma that has been embedded over and over and over again. And the way I deal with, you talk about validation. The things I do and I've done, especially online, now people are coming to me saying, "You have really made a difference in the world." And I'm like, "Thank you. I really don't need that because God pressed me to do this. If you're doing something that God wants you to do, you really don't need anybody to validate it. You're doing what God, people are like, nothing can disturb you, James. If people be like, hating on you, I'm like, look, they're not hating on me, they're hating on God. See? And so a lot of us, we're going through this trauma because identity crises, we've been told lies. I keep on putting people's heads, we're not from Africa, this is your home in America, honor your ancestors. I'm keeping it in, and now people are resonating with what I'm saying. They're like, James, you are so right.
So let me ask you this question before we take the next caller. Kofi.
Kofi, all of our lives, we've been circulating this lie.
Okay, so Kofi, let me ask you this question before I take the next caller. What about if in a person's own household, no matter how they identify themselves, even if they, whether they're white, black, or something else, if in their household, their parents have made them feel like they are unworthy, and then they get into a relationship with someone who also makes them feel unworthy, maybe somebody who doesn't appreciate their intelligence, doesn't appreciate their hard work, and puts them down. How does a person develop within themselves a feeling of self-worth if their self-worth is not based on whether their ancestors are from Africa or Europe or America or whatever? It's based on how they were treated in their family, and so they feel bad. What do they reach for in order to feel good about themselves?
That's a good question. I told my daughter, don't repeat what me and your mother have gone through. Don't repeat it. Sometimes you got to go and look at your grandparents. Sometimes you got to go and look at another generation to get some positive out of it. But you got to honor your mother and father because they gave you life. You see, and whatever it is in that home that a lot of people are experiencing, they're just letting go of the trauma. I remember my father came home and he had a fight with my mother, and she's like, "You only doing this because you had a traumatic experience at work. Now you're taking it out on me." So, if you're a child, if you're dealing with parents that you have a situation with, you have to have a little mercy and understanding that something that they're dealing with is blocking the love that they can give to you. no. Your mama had experience, some trauma, some experience. Just look at that. You see, and then you realize it comes back to self-love. They call me self-love on the internet. It comes back to finding self-love.
Well, that's a very, very insightful comment. We certainly thank you for sharing that. I think that's probably the first step that anybody has to do if they've been raised by a parent that was not loving, is try to empathize, try to have compassion, try to find out what happened to them, whether it's, a trauma at work, a trauma in their own upbringing, what happened to them that made them not love themselves, the reason why they don't have the love to give to you, and be able to forgive them for that because they can't help it. And I think that would be a big step in helping people to heal from the hurt of an unloving parent that kind of set things in motion.
Yeah.
Let's take the next caller here, 312-671. Give us your name, introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience, and your comments regarding unloving relationships that become abusive, that they need to end.
Shalom. We don't die, we multiply. Black is beautiful and black power forever. Yes, Brother Cookie, you are right on time, because he got a spiritual mind. And self-love, as you have also shared, Sister Naima, Latif, and Dr. Debbie Green, this program, the Female Solution, is number one. First of all, this Brother Plunk from Chicago, Illinois. And we don't have to go back to the village. You see, the village was back in the day, really in the 30s to 40s, for example. Well, I even go back to the 20s. The 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, black people was in love with one another. And they was hooked up to the village. After the 90s, they became disconnected with God. They became disconnected with the family. And they, most of all, became disconnected to the village. So what we have to do is reunite, reorganize, and rejuvenate the family to the village. And today, we're going to be at Lake Road Village at 3515 South Cottage Road. And from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., we're going to be sharing leadership development. We're going to share atonement, which is very important, like Yahshua, who most know as Jesus Christ, said, Father, I forgive them, but they do. However, it's still going to be a part of the solution from the village. And we're going to go through the prosperity. So, brothers and sisters, for more information, keep up in touch with us because it's all about unity in the community, unity in yourself, unity in, most of all, God. We are only in the community. It's all going to result to God's will only. However, God has put in the individual the healing power that she can be a shero and he can be a hero. And we all can be and develop ourselves because we have discovered the most important person it is living. And that is something that is needed to put black and black love together again. We're in it to win.
So let me ask you this,
oh my goodness.
So Minister Plump, let me ask you this before I take the next caller. When do you know that a relationship that is unloving, perhaps hurtful, is something that should end or something you should forgive and try to stay in your opinion? When should you leave and when should you forgive and try to stay? How do you know?
Thank you for asking. Yes, well, you see, a person knows within themselves what is what and when and where and how this or that even started with them. And what you have to do is build a better relationship. The power is in forgiveness, between you and that particular person, because it's like Dr. King used to say too, it's the content of the character. So each person must become educated. That's another important part. And information is a key to success. See, this is what you all have demonstrated with the female solution. Information is a key to success. However, education is a part of the best. In other words, if you got a problem, you know you got a problem. We know we got problems in the Black community. So you have to admit that we got problems. And part of the problem is mental, stress, and which mental stress can kill you, or it can kill yourself or others. So you have to relieve yourself of that stress by being involved with the village and be a part of a circle that loves you, just like our drum circle. We call the ancestors the 63rd and the 64th Street drummers.
We appreciate that. Well, you know what, Minister Trump, we appreciate that advice that people need to reach out to those beyond their family, especially if they are in a painful situation. So we thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And let's open the mic for 773-977 Grand Rising. Thank you so much for calling us today on Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green. Give us your name, where you're calling from, and your comments regarding letting go of painful relationships.
Well, good morning, beautiful ladies and handsome gentlemen. This is Lois in Chicago, Illinois.
Good morning.
We're all so blessed and we're really rich because this station, I'll tell you, and I agree, Brother Plunk, you're right. You're number one, Naima. It doesn't matter.
Can do it off the fantastic team I have.
Listen, I think, Dr. Debbie, you're not going to step over Naima, but I'm telling you, girl, you're all the way up there. We love you so much. Listen, feel that, the problems of staying together, especially when children are involved. And I can speak from self-experience. Now, you can go through an abusive marriage for the purpose of knowing that God gave you life from that person. And so the life was the connection between the male and the female that created the gift from God, which was the child. So after the child comes into the world, a mother will do whatever she can to keep that attachment for the sake of the baby, mentally, physically, educationally, financially. And so she goes through some things perhaps just to see if it can work to help educate the child and not take it out on the child because they're not really happy with one another. Sometimes you can make deals with, your husband and still you wind up getting beaten or getting raped or what have you. So, you have to come out of a situation only with God. And if you notice, people are always telling you what you can do or how you can do it. But back in the day, when I came along and went through misery, which being married at 16, whatever, there were no provisions, no benefits, no help for anyone out there. Even the courts were not helping you, and they're still not doing too much to help you today. People can go and file for a divorce, and next thing you know, they've killed one another. If they don't have a order protection or something like that, you're going to go to jail for a while. So it's best to get away, but sometimes if you have children, it's hard. I believe it's really, really hard to just say, break that attachment from the father. The child goes to school, and when they want to talk about the father, sometimes they speak up. Or my father is a pilot, or my father is a police, and they never even knew their father. So that attachment caused a problem automatically with the child. So we have to live from day to day because when naval cord was cut, that meant that you were on your own. You're breathing on your own. You're thinking on your own based on the environment, from birth. And you just have to just continue to pray and trusting God. And we've made it thus far, and He's not going to leave us now. I love you all so much, and thank you for this time. This is Lois in Chicago.
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you. Thank you for calling in.
much.
Thank you for calling in. Again, there are so many factors of why people stay in a dysfunctional relationship and why they don't. You
And I
know,
know a lot of
it's
people
there's
stay.
not just one thing. So it depends on the person. It depends on the upbringing. It depends on the exposure. It depends. It depends. It depends. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, self-compassion is needed so that that person can ask themselves, am I doing everything that I could do to better my life? And
That's
it's always a plan. It's
yeah,
always a solution. There's never ever a situation that does not have a solution. If
absolutely.
we're focused on the problem, if you're problem focused, you will never be solution orientated. You can't
Mm,
be. You have to, it's versus. And then see, now we go back again to this victim mentality. Because
right.
I mean, we see the dynamics, we understand what is going on, we see all of these things that has, permeated, why we can't do this or why we didn't do that or what we didn't have or what this, all of these things are external circumstances.
Absolutely. We've got another caller here. 312-768. Your mic is open. Give us your name where you're calling from and your comments.
Hi, Grand Rising, everyone. Oh, what a delicious comment. This is Mama Joy from Chicago.
Hey,
Can you hear
Mama
me?
Joy.
Hello, good
Ma'am.
morning, Grand Rising.
Good morning. Good morning. I tell you, I am so deeply grateful for this conversation this morning because, I've always heard unworthy, and so many other words, and I'm trying to figure out what in the heck is with me that I always seem to have to and get an approval, and I thought I had risen above that, and then using the word validation became something new for me this morning, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think that but Dr. Green made a comment, said, you know what? When you realize that this kind of victim mentality is not something that you get overnight,
Right.
and it's not something that you get rid of in a few days. You have to be highly conscious of the fact that that has been the birth culture of myself and with my mom. And sometimes the deepest hurts that we have gotten, at least with Joy, let me speak about Joy. I got to stop talking about other people because I don't know the experience of other people. All I know is what I have experienced in the battles that I've had to do. And I just came into my own acceptance just a few days ago that I'm a leader.
Yes.
And I have people following me, I have people doing it, but I never took ownership of that word. I never took ownership of even my anointing because there's a certain there's a certain vibration that goes all through you. But if you don't recognize that vibration, if you don't recognize that anointing that is called, but that power that you can feel, this vibration that streams through you, if you don't recognize it, no matter how much anybody else tells you, you're not going to take ownership and you won't be able to ride.
That's right.
That validation meant a lot to me. And I remember going into the school, and one of my deepest hurts came from my mom. And don't get me wrong, my mother loved me. My mother loved me deeply. But my mother had an issue in loving herself, accepting herself, and I picked it up. One of the deepest experiences I had was going to school. My tuition was like, $10, $9 or $10 a month. I went to a Catholic school. my mother came to pay my tuition, and the principal told me to come down. My mother was in the office, and if I wanted to see, I could come and see my mom. And I went down, and I was so excited because my mother, she worked in the hospital, and she was a nurse's assistant in the preemie ward, and she would come to us and tell us so many amazing stories. And I was so excited and proud of my mom, and I told the principal all about my mom and the work that she did. And you know what? My mom looked at me and said, "Shut up, I'm nothing."
Oh.
And I looked at her. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I'm nothing." And the principal, she grasped her breath. She says, she couldn't caught her breath. I said, "What are you saying?" She said, "I'm nothing. I'm nothing. I just had a job. I just got a job." Now, when my mother comes home, she's all excited. But here before this white nun, my mother declared that she was nothing. My gut wrenched. I was so hurt. And these are many kind of experiences that I experienced. And it's like how, you pain, love. You being loved with pain. You being loved with a lack of love. And it throws you into a quandary of freaking confusion. Because you don't know love without pain. I didn't know love without pain. I didn't know love without abandonment. I didn't know love without the hurt or without the injury, as Dr. Green has talked about.
Wow.
Only pure love I ever thought I seen was what Hollywood sent to me. And that had some music.
The fairy tale. Yeah.
So here I am at this age, but pulling off all these shells. And one of the things I believe that's helping me is when I can testify and speak about where it began, where all this crap has been piled up on me that causes me to even resent myself in so many ways.
Wow.
Simply because I know I have a voice, but then something else tells me no, this no and yes in me. So I'm growing, and I appreciate you ladies, because we are somebody truly. And as long as we cannot take ownership of that, we're passing something on our children, and we don't even realize it. In our best of love, we deny them a right to be free and to be themselves.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That is so
absolutely.
Well, of course, you will hear Mama Joy the second Saturday of every month. So look for her upcoming. The powerful voice of Mama Joy. And
I have an up.
Saturday. If it's this Saturday coming, this Saturday between 12 and 2 at the same number. And to what we're discussing is that these conversations that we have with ourselves, we put it in the community.
Yes.
And the community cannot grow any greater than our own voice and how we live and how we see ourselves and how we treat ourselves. And this is one of the situations that we have to address. We have to speak about it.
Absolutely.
Speak about it.
We have to speak.
It's like, how can you address the victim mentality? It's a vice. How can you? We have to speak on it. Tell what it is, and speak, because we have to be healed.
Yes.
But we can't be healed if we don't address the issue.
We don't
and the issue is the lack of love. In fact, I extended the verse that says, "Love your neighbor as yourself."
First, gotta love yourself.
Elevation. Love your neighbor as you learn how to love you.
There you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mama Joy, looking forward to a dynamic show this coming Saturday, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern.
And I have to keep in touch with you because I have a training that's getting ready to launch next month. And this training it addresses psychological strength for leaders, psychological strength as well as leadership abilities. And it helps you to really focus on those areas of, discomfort within your upbringing, but also dealing with them. Because again, they don't come up until the river rises.
That's
When the river rises, that's when you start feeling things that you never thought you thought was gone and never was there. But when those rivers start rising, which is of life, then you're like, whoa, like you said, you have that thought in your mind of that word, oh, I'm nothing. And that right there was a traumatized moment for you. It's etched, it's ingrained in your subconscious. So if there's ever a situation that challenges that through a triggered response, immediately that thing rises. One thing we know, we love God, we understand deliverance, but one thing, the human mind is etched in time, and
yeah.
it records every single thing. But we have to know how to respond when those river rises. So I want to definitely keep you posted because I believe it would tremendously take you to a whole nother level.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah, I really want to participate in that. And you know, when that river rises, supposed to rise with you. That's what we experience. We go to the next level. God takes us to another level, and we steer it, and we just don't know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Exactly. That's what you'll learn in this training, what to
Yeah.
do.
What to
Yes,
do?
what to do.
Yes. All the leaders need to. You need to take the course because so many of us we have a mission, but something in us has been crushed, and we need to heal it so that we can be our best selves. Thank you so much, Mama Joy. Looking forward to hearing your words of wisdom on coming this Saturday. We appreciate you. That'll be November 12th. Oh, we got a comment. We're going to take our last break, and we got a comment on Facebook, and I believe we've got another comment from Baba Kwame. I'll open his mic after the break, and we'll be right back. So stay with us. And if you are listening online and want to join this conversation, give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1 when you're ready to speak so that we can open your mic and get your thoughts. We'll be right back. So stay with us. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Naima Latif. Join me and my co-host Kareem Hamid every Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the Female Solution Radio Show as we explore that relationship that is the foundation for our society, the relationship between men and women, husbands and wives. Join our discussion as we seek to repair broken family ties and rebuild our community. Listen online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. Call in and comment 515-605-9325. Press 1 to speak to our host. Or you can join us live on Facebook at www.facebook.com/the-female-solution.
Our kids are the future and should not be left behind. One person should not decide what is the best for our 77 communities. Politicians must work together for our kids' best interests. They deserve a safe education with resources that meet every student need. Let's rebuild and restore Chicago. Vote for me for mayor of Chicago. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson, and I approve this message. Paid for by Willie Wilson for mayor.
Hi, I'm Naima Latif, executive producer of the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. We are a part of the online network of Associated Internet Radio hosts, On Air. On Air empowers you with transformative news and interactive radio TV shows. This is such a wonderful time to be alive and to see our human family coming together as one community as a result of that powerful tool, the internet. We can now talk directly to each other all over the world. There's no need for conflict or misunderstanding. There's no need for violence to solve our differences. We can talk to each other face to face until we reach an agreement. On Air offers a fantastic global guide to communicators from all over the world who are using their internet platforms to inspire us to strive to be our best selves in order to become the kind, compassionate, loving people we were all born to be. provides daily news briefs and a weekly magazine to keep you abreast of events and opportunities. On-air news affiliates in television, radio, and print share information, insight, and interviews with notable personalities. Go to onaireverywhere.com for a daily dose of uplifting news. We're on air everywhere, online all the time.
All right. We're at the top of our hour. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green, my wonderful co-host, Naima Latif, the executive producer of the Female Solution. And again, we are talking about how to emotionally detach from toxic relationships. And again, it doesn't have to be heterosexual. It doesn't have to be, just it could be family. And we can also have toxic relationships even on our job, y'all. Okay.
Yes.
Please understand, because workplace violence is real, just like domestic violence, family violence, because violence has no interpreter of persons or place or time. It can just happen. Okay.
I think we got,
Again,
I think Baba Kwame has a question.
okay.
706-202, your mic is open.
Yes, and what I'm concerned with is what you're offering is solution. And is the solution going to be here in Atlanta? I think you're in Atlanta. Or is it going to be a virtual to where World Wide Web would be able to help those that are seeking what you're offering as a solution and training? Because these should be implemented ways in which we talk about the issue, but here are the solutions to bring to the people to help them to help themselves.
Absolutely. Yes, this will be virtual, worldwide web, not just in Atlanta. Now, if there is a need that some people may want it in person, then it will have to be other arrangements for that. But mainly, it is going to be virtual. That's the goal, and I'll be presenting it during the first week of December, which means presenting it, talking about it more, and the dates and everything at that particular time. And if you're interested, please drop us a note. I'm sure you can email me, Soulful Solutions with an S, 77@gmail.com. Soulful Solutions 77@gmail.com if you're interested. But I'll be talking about much more, especially after Thanksgiving, and you will be really knowing exactly what's involved in it, because again, leaders that are out there, that whether they're in the church setting, in the community, wherever you are leading, you need to know how to deal with people's issues from the platform of the worst to the worst to the best to the best. Again, psychiatrists, psychologists, nurse practitioners, all of these people, if you don't go into a healthcare setting, if you have to go into someone's office, then that's the only way you're going to get help. I mean, yeah, we want to do more, but the community leaders, people who are really out here doing something, got their hands in grassroots, need to understand the mental incapabilities of people and be able to offer them solutions on those things, because everyone doesn't go into a mental health hospital or go into an office and they're still dealing with a whole lot of dysfunction.
Yeah, I think that's a critical thing to understand also, because people, a lot of times when they have deep mental, emotional issues and they go to their church pastor, well, this is not somebody who has really been trained to assist with mental health issues, or even to be a counselor. I mean, their training might be in the theological seminary and they can quote some Bible verses, but the depth of healing that people need who have been psychologically wounded, have been emotionally wounded, have been traumatized, they don't have the skills to help. And people get frustrated because they expect them to have it. They expect them to know how to fix my problem. My husband beats me, my wife beats me, my parents verbally abuse me. And you go to the spiritual leader, they don't have the knowledge on how to help you. And so you get frustrated because it seems like they don't care enough. And then some act of violence breaks out, and then everybody is like, oh, what a shame. But they still don't know what to say to you. They don't know how to help you. You're traumatized. You can't go to your religious leaders because they don't have the knowledge. That's why there
Right.
has to be a training like Dr. Debbie is doing. And we do have to empower people to help themselves. Mama Joy said something that was really very critical, and it's
Yes.
so into the generation that raised us. The self-depreciation, the feeling like nothingness, the knowing how to denigrate yourself in the presence of white people. If we happen to be African American, that's still that trauma that our parents went through, and the feeling of nothingness that made them in some ways often not be able to show affection, appreciation, or validation, because they believe I don't want you to think too much of yourself, because then you might you might attract abuse from white people. I mean, that thought is still in them because it was in their parents, so
Yes.
that's the trauma that we have to undo, but we have to also understand where it came from so that we can forgive the parents who laid the foundation of us feeling unlovable and then not loving and appreciating ourselves. So there is an undoing that has to happen so that we can be the effective leaders that we were born to be. We have to erase that hurt. And one thing I'm excited about, Dr. Debbie and the rest of my wonderful team of very wise women are going to be a part of the Parenting with Peace classes that will be launching on our New Earth Homeschool Academy. And this is to teach parents how to raise a child in a totally different manner, where there's no sense of victimization or any of that trauma that we have carried forward. It's a totally different mindset and a freeing of the spirit and an empowerment of the soul of this child to be all that they came here to be. And so look out for that, because that helps us begin a new beginning in the kind of people that we are producing on planet Earth.
Absolutely.
And that's what has to happen in order to make the change.
Yeah. A part of that training is this topic information really focused on soul correction, soul, SOUL correction. I truly believe, from the time we were born, even before we were born, our souls were implemented and impacted by our ancestors. That's one. And it's also is impacted by our parents, and it's impacted by life, circumstances. So those impactments cause what is called fragmentation. Fragmentation is a sense of brokenness. Most people, you know, they don't know the effects of the fragmentation until, again, they experience a trigger. That trigger then lets them know that that thing is still alive and well inside of them. So soul healing, is not just energy transferring, but the acknowledgement consciously. I still have that issue. It still has not been finalized. Okay, how do I respond to my body, my mind, and my heart? When these things happen. And understanding there's a rule, there's a regulation, there is a if I could say a strategy to actually counteract that emotion that's there, and then deal with that emotion and continue to go on so that you can continue to do the things that you were created to do. So once we understand that, because see, the training is not just for training for you or the leaders to give to the people, but first you got to eat from the table.
Yes.
Okay. You
Yes.
eat from the table. And when you eat, you digest what you have and you deal with those things that you, because see, one thing about this training, y'all, when you sit there, things are going to come up
Hmm.
out of your vast of life issues. You see what I'm saying? And you're like, whoa, I never thought about that. Because one thing about the mind will let you know in the deepest seat of yourself what in the heart, once the heart and the mind starts to communicate effectively, whatever issues that's in there that's been impacted, it's going to say, hey, wow, you mean to tell me after 25 years, I can finally deal with this? And it'll send it to the mind right
Mm.
there, right in that very moment. You see what I'm saying? Now, again, we want to deal with that. We don't want to suppress it, that it goes back down into the dominion of ourselves. No, we want to be able to say, okay, maybe this is something, and be aware, have conscious aware, and say, okay, now let me see what this really is, because it's been coming back and forth, back and forth. So I'm ready to deal with it. And then here's the strategy, how to deal with that. Here's
Mm.
the understanding, how to deal with that. And not just deal with it. I don't want you to just cope with it. I want you to conquer it. That's
Yeah.
the goal. I want you to conquer it so it doesn't be a situation that always comes up in you, because you might have experienced something when you were a child, or had a broken relationship that hurt you so bad to the point where you didn't think you could go on, but you did. you know but at the same token, you're dealing with residue in the soul.
Yes.
Okay, so
That's
again, we will talk more about that. And Dr. Dev got you. If you allow yourselves to be pliable and say, hey, you know, I just want to be a vessel to learn about a little more about me, even though I might have been this professional doing this and I might be doing that. But a leader is the most humblest person there is. And they are also servants.
yeah.
To lead, you have to be humble and you have to be a servant.
Serve. Absolutely. I think we have 312768. I had another comment. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that me?
Yes, yes. I think Mama Joy pressed one again. Yes. Had one last comment before we go.
I just want, boy. This is so beautiful. It's so delicious. Um, I was thinking, with the comments about our spiritual, not spiritual leaders, but our religious leaders, and it's important to be able to distinguish between religious leaders and spiritual leaders. Because when you're dealing with spiritual leaders, there's more liberty there. And I'm saying liberty because so many religious leaders abound with doctrines and creeds that box them in with laws, particularly like the hermeneutics. And no, they do not have that training because
That's right.
it will not allow them to lead outside of their scripture content.
Right.
And so
that's the limitation.
It's very important to understand it. They can be exceptionally well, but right now our community needs healing.
Yes.
And what I did, Dr. Green, I said, wow, after I got the lead, after I accept my leadership, the leader in me, I went out and I said, well, okay, I began to see things differently. And then ask yourself this question, where were you made? You said, God made me. Well, where is God? Oh, we say God is in heaven. So if God is in heaven and God made me, that means that God made me in heaven. So many of us here, and we're working to go to heaven without realizing that we came from heaven. We came from heaven to do a good work. Hello?
That's it.
We came from heaven to do a good work. What did we come here for? We came here as Jesus spoke, as it is in heaven, let it be so in earth. That is why we're here, because we have been called to.
But can I take it to another level?
There you go. But
I
that,
want to
Mama
take you to
Joy,
a whole nother level.
that is exactly right. Where
That's you need to
from
right there where
heaven
you
we
are.
came, from heaven we will return. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mama Joy. So
You keep in touch because you got to get this straight, honey. This
yes,
ain't gonna take you to a whole nother level.
absolutely. So Dr. Debbie, I guess we're about to wrap up with some last comments before we go. Yeah, I think
Yes.
Mama Joy said the thing that if we understood that on the deepest level of our being, then we would
Hmm.
not need other people's validation. Who do we come
Right.
from? What are we an expression of? We are expression of the divine creation of the universe.
Correct.
So we can never be less than, we can never be nothing. We are all that is. And when we
That's
know
it.
that, then we can heal.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the part of training is that how to reconnect with the divine mind before everything happened. You got, real quick here. You got we have so many parts to ourselves as we enter this world, as we enter this life on earth. You got social identities, you got role plays that you play, and every person that you talk to, you use a part of yourself to do so. You're not going to talk to your mother like you would talk to your friend. You're not going to talk to your husband like you talk to your daughter. So what am I saying? You're constantly changing roles. Your mind is constantly changing roles, and out of those role plays, what happens is if there is ever a deterrent, ever distraction, every hard spoken word, anything that doesn't stimulate the God in you. It has to stimulate it. If it doesn't stimulate it, it puts a damper over it. Okay, so this is the things that happens in life when we find ourselves in a position like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
How did I get here in this place? We ask ourselves that question because remember, you're so busy doing that you forgot the being. You had to,
Mhm.
you got to go back to human being and say, you're not just the who someone think you are. That's one way of somebody gives you, who your mother think you are, who your father, sister, brother. No, you got to go back to the person, the true identity of not who you are, but what was your purpose to come here in the first place.
Yes.
The who goes into the being and the doing. That's what that is. Who you are to someone else. That's the human being. Alternate. No, we want to go back to the being stage. You
Yeah.
you move out of the human doing stage and go back to the human being stage. Before all of that happened, before every role you played, before everything happened, every bump on your knee when you was a little girl, what a little boy, what that person, that's the
Yeah.
one I want.
Who are you inside
Who
this?
are you?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're always been impacted by the same things over and over again, looking in a different package.
Yeah.
That's all. And it's
That's
called cycling.
yeah.
People cycle. They cycle into mental incapability, cycle into victim mentality, they cycle into looking for someone to love them or feeling accepted. No, the kingdom of God is where? Where is it?
Within you.
It's within you. So if it's inside of me and I walk with it, I breathe with it, I eat with it every day,
Yeah.
then why am I not stimulated by it? You need to learn how to get back to your place of peace reservoir. It's a reservoir of peace that flows out of you uncontrollably, whether you want to or not. And that thing called resilience.
There
No
we go.
matter what you go through, you're going to keep on going. No matter how much somebody hurts you, you're going to keep on going. But let me tell you something. If you remove that victim mentality, your eyes will be open, your ear gates will be open, and you will see life from a whole nother perspective. And that is the true self.
Yes.
That's the true self.
True self. Well,
So
all
stick
right.
and stay with Dr. Green, and she gonna show you. I had to find mine.
We
I
all
found
have
mine.
we
We all
all
have our
have to.
journeys, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We
And
all
we're
have
always
the journey.
moving. We're always moving higher and higher.
Yes.
You never get there because there is a place you're always striving to be.
That's right. Always try.
Thank you so much, YouTube. This is the first time Dr. Dan's been on. I hope somebody gets some love out of this, some attention, some meat and potatoes. We will be here every Thursday. Thank you, Facebook, for watching. Continue to tell somebody, share it so that we can help somebody. Okay? God bless you. And y'all enjoy the rest of your week.
We've come to the end of our show today, but you can hear every show in the archives at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. You can also hear today's show on the Female Solution Facebook page. Go to www.facebook.com/the-female-solution. Leave your comments about today's show. You can always reach me on my website at www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com. Watch our TV shows, listen to our radio shows, order our books, and be sure to get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussion. And to our global family listening from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, Sheshe, India, Zanzibar, Japan, Arigato, Korea, Kamsahamnida, Russia, Spasiba,
And
Germany,
we will be back tomorrow for Health and Well-Being with Beata at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution.
Shukra, Ghana, Medasi, Nigeria, Eshe, South Africa, Nyabonga, Senegal, Geret,